This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West Podcast with your host, Brandon Cook and Nick Harrington.
And welcome to the Hockeytown West Podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Nick.
And we are joined yet again by our good friend Elaine Shircliff to give you guys a complete recap of the first round of the Calder Cup Playoffs for the Grand Rapids Griffins. Our thoughts, our MVPs, our concerns for the next round, everything. Before we get into that, Elaine, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. If we had done this like 2 weeks ago, vibes were bad. The vibes are good now. I had been a little, stressy spaghetti, espresso depresso, whatever you want to call it. Spent some time with my family down in Washington, D.C. for a funeral, which ended up being like a really great time. So that says anything about our family. And then just spending time with some of my friends. Just sometimes you just need to reconnect with God, your family, and your friends so that you can finish the season strong.
That's fair. That's fair. Did I remember seeing you said you saw 2 Griffins jerseys when you were in DC?
Oh my God, yes. And they weren't like, oh, I'm sorry. Wow. We saw one in it's called Springfield. It's not far away from DC. My mom saw it at the Whole Foods. Yeah. Whole Foods. And she goes, oh my God, do you see that? And I go, is it a gluten-free food? Like, that's what we were looking for. And she was like, no, you idiot. It was just like the normal, red, the red, white, the newer one. There was also a kid in our hotel who was wearing a t-shirt, a Griffins t-shirt. And I was like, dang. But we were in Georgetown, leaving from we were driving through Georgetown. Was it Georgetown? It was DC, Georgetown area. And we were coming from the cemetery and we were getting on our way to get onto the highway. And we were at this stoplight and I look over and it's like that old, it was like a blue, darker, navy, it was old. It had the old Griffin on it. At first I thought it was a Caps jersey. That one that kind of, do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was on a young kid too. And my cat just, it was on a younger kid too, probably in their early 20s. And I literally looked at my mom. I go, is that a Griffins jersey? Is that a Griffins jersey? She's like, I don't know. You're turning. Stop turning around. I was turning right. He was on the left. And she looked in the mirror and I looked in the mirror and I go, oh my God, it's an old school Griffins jersey. I was so DC people, big Griffins fans, apparently.
I love it. I love it.
Great.
That's just, we're everywhere.
Yeah, it's true. Everywhere.
I wonder if it was a Mantha jersey.
I didn't see a name on the back.
I didn't think about that when I said this.
But also I was trying to drive in rush hour
DC
traffic and it was Georgetown Day. So people just kept walking out in front of my car because there were all these festivals. So, didn't feel like going to jail for accidentally hitting someone.
Yeah, please don't do that. That's a tough one to explain next episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Why did Elaine go to jail? She hit someone because she saw a Griffins jersey and freaked out.
There's one part of that that's okay in our eyes. It's just seeing the Griffins jersey. Anyways, let's dive into this here. So I sent out to you guys earlier today to get some thoughts together for this episode to kind of just go through a couple different topics to kind of give us a track here because we tend to go off track in these recap type episodes. But I want to start with you, Nick.
Oh, no.
I know. I want to start with you. Overall thoughts on round 1 as a whole from you.
I was surprised that it didn't take him that long to eliminate Rockford. With the series for the regular season, we played this team 12 times. I thought it was going to go all the way to game 5, and I thought we'd see more overtimes. I thought they were going to be a lot closer. I'm surprised, too, that it wasn't as aggressive. I mean, you saw a lot of physicalness. You saw them get under our skin the entire regular season, and they didn't really play like that. And if they did, the rest didn't call it. So I was surprised on that aspect. I'm happy that we're moving on. That's the biggest thing, that we're moving on. So, and we did it quickly, so we have some time to rest. But yeah, that's kind of my surface thoughts at the moment.
I like it. Elaine, what about you?
Same thing. I really thought it was going to go all the games and we were going to see like 3 overtimes. There was going to be literal blood because we saw right before the season ended. I was like, wow, these two teams don't like each other. Not even a little bit. I was concerned that the first few games too, that would spill over into it. And they were docile. Like, it wasn't what I was expecting. It was more hockey, less fighting, which is, good. But yeah, I wasn't even sure what to expect, to be honest. I had zero expectations for the season coming in because everything was so new. I had hopes, obviously, of what would happen. But it was good. I mean, I enjoyed like watching them. I enjoyed like cutting most of the clips except for that one game where it was 5-1, the 5 unanswered goals. Yeah, that was a bit rough.
Yeah, it was not fun being at that game in person. That was one where I definitely, the episode we recorded after that one as our fan reaction was quite unhinged, but it was a good time still. The recording, not the game. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Like, I thought this would go a little longer. I said 4 games. I just had a feeling it wouldn't go the full 5, and I'm glad it didn't, seeing that we would have had a week off before the Friday game to play, and now we don't have a game Friday. At this point, we're going to have a full week off waiting for these other rounds or more. And that's exciting to me. Like, I think the guys really need this, especially because some guys were just coming back into the lineup at the end of the season, like Gettinger, and then you get Elmer back in the lineup mid-playoffs. Like, he can spend all week working out now, getting his stamina back up from whatever infection or cold he caught. And I think you're going to see a better team from Grand Rapids in the next round.
I would agree. I mean, it gives them the time to end up scouting both teams of Texas and Milwaukee, and you get to watch them live as it's going on. So,
right.
I mean, and I think, Milwaukee plays tomorrow, so that could end up being done tomorrow.
No, it's good to see that the series went this way, and there's a lot of good that came out of this. And thinking of good, I asked you both to pick your first round MVP for the Grand Rapids Griffins. I'm gonna go to Elaine first. Elaine, who did you pick on this one?
Obviously, whoever brought in not 1 but 2 octopuses, however you. I feel like that really changed everything.
It was an electric moment being in the arena. It did feel like a lot changed there. That second one is where it really got going, where the Zamboni driver took it from the guy that shoveled it off the ice instead of picking it up and decided to flail that thing around. It was iconic for Grand Rapids right there.
It was beautiful. But if we want to talk Player-wise, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm sure people are going to say like Jonathan Berggren, but I would say Kosa, or even, I know he didn't play every game, and it's kind of hot takey, but I would put Didier as the MVP too, because I don't think what he did for the team was just on the ice. I think a lot of stuff was off the ice too for him. There is value sometimes to having your captain be a healthy scratch because of the veteran rule, and being able to sit and watch the opponent and essentially scout them, and then meet with everyone and say, this is what I saw from up here, and this is what you guys saw from down here. I think I have a feeling, based on his type of personality and how they used him throughout this season, that maybe that's something they did. I can't say that for certain, but I feel like that's what happened. So I would put him there too.
I want to know, why did you put Kosa? Why it was a tie between Kosa and Didier?
Yeah, well, because he looks so good. I mean, I'm really proud of him. I thought, yeah. Yes. Do you not agree with me? Do you have hot takes, Nikki?
Oh, he does, for sure.
I mean, I didn't think I didn't think he had that bounce back game or that game that he, really shut the door down on. I mean, he gave up 12 goals in 4 games or 5 games.
But does that
4
all
games,
just
sorry.
it
12
doesn't
goals
all
in 4.
just doesn't just all fall on him though.
I agree.
So I don't know, he never melted down and he stayed fairly consistent. And when you're in the playoffs, you need a goaltender that's gonna stay consistent. There were some weird goals that were scored too. Like what was that? What was that one that was that like off the
glass, landed right in midair in front of whoever that was his stick, and he was able to bat it in right below the crossbar. Like if that would have come out just a little bit further, it would have been higher than the crossbar and he wouldn't be able to hit it. Like it was just perfection of a bounce for that guy. I hated every second of it.
Yeah, that was the moment I thought maybe God might be a Rockford fan, but then things worked out fine, so it was okay.
He was just testing us.
Yeah, it was testing our faith.
My biggest thing when you talk about Coast and the bounce, I thought game 4 was a bounce back game if I look at it, because Rockford really had to throw everything at them they possibly could. And when I look at Rockford's roster, I just think it's like 60% Blackhawks at this point. Like there's so much talent on that roster. Not to say there's not a ton of talent on the Griffins roster, but like a lot of those guys played a lot more NHL games this season than Grand Rapids players did. You got to think Zarnik, Aston Reese, and Edvinson are the only ones that got that NHL experience this year, really. And you had Rockford had quite a few more guys, but Brogan had a lot of driving experience, not Detroit Red Wings playing experience. He had some practice.
Yeah. But see, that can hurt the team chemistry. Like that can hurt it in the sense of if these guys kept going up and getting all that playing time, well, these guys were playing together. They know all the plays. They know how to read each other. They know like just the different ticks that each player has, and the coach, they kind of know what's going to happen. And when you get sent back down, it's kind of like it's a good thing to be able to play that, and they add more. Sometimes it can be a slight disadvantage because they're not they haven't been in the thick of it. And you have a short time to reacclimate yourself, but that's how you find out who is good enough to handle those challenges moving forward. So
I'd agree with that. I think we saw that towards the end of the season too, when Edvinson and Zarnik and everyone started to slot back into the lineup. It was like, oh, this is kind of back to the first couple months of the lineup where everyone didn't know each other. They're still trying to gel. They're trying to get back into this flying Griffins team now at this point. I almost said flying toasters. They're just trying to get back into this team that's been on a high lately, and they've been gone, and it takes some time to get used to. So I see where you're coming from there. One thing before I get Nick's MVP, I wanted to add to that too, with Didier especially. Like you take, like you said, watching the game and being able to tell the guys, hey, this is what I'm seeing from up there. But I also noticed too on Wednesday, all the Black Aces, all these young kids who have signed their ELCs recently and are with Grand Rapids, traveling with the team, practicing with the team, they're all sitting in the same suite at Van Andel together, and all the other scratches are there with them too. So I can only imagine what he's up there telling all these young kids too as well, and what they're able to absorb from this. Now I see even the more importance of just assigning them here, not just to be an extra body that can go into action when needed, but they're learning so much up there from a guy like him.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you have Shai up there with him. You've got Gibson up there now with him too. And I think that's all the defensive prospects up there. So, I mean, just getting that information is huge. And yeah, both of those are great points about Didier. And I think he did change, like we called it out after game 2, like, where's our captain? Like, put him in. And he comes back, and not only does like that perspective help, but also his on ice performance was fantastic. Blocking shots, keeping it out, like clearing the crease.
Right.
For Costa, land the body on Senior a couple times. I mean, that stuff all adds up, and it was fantastic.
And him, when he blocked the shots, he did them correctly. He did them safely in a way that isn't going to hurt his season. He's not going to get injured. It was so cool to see a defender block shots without sacrificing his body to the point where like he would be a liability. You know what I mean? Like, that was you don't honestly, like, you don't see much of that nowadays. You don't see those defenders getting in it and, not putting their ankle first. We see that so much. How many defenders get hurt ankles, like just like the area right above the ankle too, because they threw their body where they shouldn't have, or they were just too erratic about it. And he was so controlled, and it was really awesome to watch.
Yeah, that's something I hope the young guys are paying attention to, because I see, Johansson and Edvinsson go down to block a shot sometimes, and I'm like, oh, don't do that like that, guys. No. And then especially the clearing the crease aspect too. Those guys could use a little bit more of that experience from him as well. Because there wasn't a guy standing in front of Kosa when Didier was on the ice. It was great.
Yeah, and he was so smooth about it. So calm.
Oh yeah. So Nick, MVP from you. Who was it?
I mean, it's when you sent this, I was like, man, I feel like everybody's gonna say Jonathan Berggren. I mean, you got 3 game-winning goals. He led the team in goals for the series, so it's like hard not to give that a guy like the MVP for this series. So, I mean, he had 2 assists as well, so he's setting up his people. And he was controlled. Like, he kept his emotions in check. He wasn't doing stuff after the whistle. He played a fantastic game. I mean, or for a series. So, I mean, it's hard. I don't want to be like the homer, but I feel bad not saying it. You know what I mean? Like, there are other guys that are what are the words I'm thinking of that are honorable to be able to be the MVP for the series. So, I mean, I have to say Berggren first. On that end.
That's fine, because actually all 3 of us are going to have different answers. So I love that.
Give me the easy.
And I'm always going to think outside the box. Like after working in youth hockey with the AAA Jackets, like you see that there are kids who get, they're so underrated. Like Kiefer Sherwood was so underrated forever. Everyone said that his brother Cole would be the bigger star. And I was like, you clearly haven't watched him play all the time, because he was more of a quiet player. He wasn't very loud, And so I'm always looking for the outside the box kind of MVP, because there are often times that, Berggren is great. And he does deserve to be in that top, but there's also guys who quietly add to the game that often get pushed aside because they're not so much on the scoreboard or things like that. So,
and if Brandon doesn't say the player, I'm going to come back to it.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, mine was Marco Kasper.
Okay.
I absolutely loved the game he brought to the table in the first round. It doesn't show on the score sheet. He only had 2 points in these in this series. There were 2 goals. There were 2 key goals each time it happened, even though one of them was an empty netter. But just the physical presence that he brought to the table and was able to just help stir things up, but in a manageable way where he never ended up in the box because he went and ran his mouth or did something stupid, which is what we expected Bergie to do, and he didn't either, and I'm so proud of him for. But just seeing what Kasper, the skill level he brought to the table in this round is so impressive to me. Like you said it before, Nick, everyone says Carter Mazurs, that Tyler Bertuzzi, and he even hates when people say that. Marco Kasper has more of the playoff Tyler Bertuzzi in him than anybody else in this team. And playoff Tyler Bertuzzi was a menace.
Except for when he took bad penalties in overtime against the Monsters in 2016. I don't think that Marco Kasper is going to do that.
I don't think so either, but yeah, you're right in that point. But yeah, it was Kasper. He was such a standout for me. I was super happy about it. And I just excited to see him take it to another level next round, because I think he will.
Yeah, Kasper played phenomenal for being a rookie, first year in the playoffs. Like, he stepped up, and like you see these flashes of him is what I've noticed throughout the season, where he'll have like a 2-0 game. You're like, okay, here he comes. Like, once he gets hot, he's hot. So I'm excited to see what he does for the next round.
Can we give props to a few Ice Hogs players? I'm so sorry.
Not allowed.
Maybe the goalie for letting all the goals in. Yeah,
I do appreciate that.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like, Comesso on the power when they were on the kill, like when the Griffins were on the power play and they were on the kill, he was their best killer. Like, he stood tall on their special teams, even on the power play. So I just wanted to give him that's like an important thing. I liked what he did. I mean, also the goals were nice, but
Yeah, I mean, there was some. I mean, Lucas Reichel. I mean, look at what he brought to the table for that team. He's insane. But I'll throw an off the books question at you here, Elaine, because I'm curious about your opinion here. Do you think it was the right move to go from Stauber after game 1 to just Commesso for the rest of the series when Stauber didn't have a bad game by any means? He didn't play bad. They went to overtime and Berge beat him in overtime. Like, that decision was so strange to me, just all of a sudden abandon him completely after it was his first loss in 14 or 13 games and then just go Commesso the whole way. I don't know. Is that weird to you?
That I wasn't perplexed, but like I was a little confused by that. I would say they were trying to ride the hot goalie, but that only happens if like you keep winning. So yeah, I was surprised they didn't rotate them. I think rotating them would have also thrown Grand Rapids for a loop because they'd have to kind of figure out based on who was in net, because Rockford does play a little bit different when one's in the net and the other isn't. So I was a little surprised, especially like game 4. Like they really, or you know what I would say? I was more surprised by the fact that in game 4, when things were getting like the momentum was very much in Grand Rapids' favor, that they didn't swap the goalies. And it's not that Commesso was doing bad. It's that the guys in front needed to know that like you really need to start stepping this up. So I was surprised that they didn't try to take that route, but I don't cover Rockford, so I didn't get to really like dig into that.
Yeah, and like I think you're spot on in game 4. They're like unless it was without those last 2 quick goals, like the Griffins were running away with the game. So I mean, at that point, yeah, it's only 3, but at 3, I probably would have pulled them too. But there is also the risk you put Stauber in cold, and Grand Rapids gets one shot in, and continues to run away with the game with the momentum they had at that time. So it is a tough call as a coach, but
maybe between periods, right? Put him in for the 3rd period. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have 20 minutes. Like, put them in. See what happens.
I think if they did that, this might have ended differently, and I'm glad they didn't, because I don't like playing against that guy. But I don't know, Nick, I don't know if you share the same opinion or not, but
I mean, I thought it at first when they swapped them, I just thought maybe they were going Stauber home and then Commesso away, and then they didn't switch it back. So I thought that was odd. I mean, one of the things that I saw elsewhere too is like they're getting a good extended look at Costa in the series, and so they're able to try to figure him out. So I don't know, like, because all year long what we've done is rotate through 1-2-1-2. So I was surprised that Rockford started with Stauber and then just didn't stick with him. It just seemed odd to me as well. So, but glad it worked out the way it did.
Nick, did that cover the player that you wanted to circle back to, or was I wrong?
You were wrong. So I feel like we have to give some props to Mr. Dominic Shine for the energy and the hustle and grit and leadership that he brought for the series. I mean, he did not give up throughout any of those games, even when it got nasty, 5-1 loss. Like, that's why we love him here as fans. Dominic Shine, I mean, he's been here. We love him. He only I was just looking at penalty minutes too. He finished with only 4.
With only 4?
Is impressive.
Only 4. 1 goal, 2 assists, plus he was a 3 points, and then +1. So I mean, he brought it. He played well. That line did well and did their job throughout. And like, you have to give the guy his props. Him and the other guy I would have done was Sarnik. But
I was just gonna say that. I was gonna say honorable mention to Sarnik too. He had a fantastic series.
Shine is one of those ones that I sometimes forget about, because even though some people think he's like a loud player, he's actually like a very quiet player. Like, he is sneakily setting up plays, like, but not getting the assist. And I sometimes forget about that.
I can't forget about him when he still finished 5th in scoring on the team with this like onslaught of rookies that should have outscored him, but he outpaced them all. So good for him.
I've been pretty negative towards Shine this season too. It's his empty nets and open shoots and like breakaways.
Yeah, you're so negative.
So I wanted to give the guy some props. He played well this season, or the series, the season 2.
Yeah. Moving on from that, who do you think the first round player that needs the most improvement heading into next series? I'm going to throw that to Elaine first.
I mean, like, I don't know. I really don't think anyone was like that awful that I'd be so worried about them. And then, like, I don't think anyone needs to be benched for the next round. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe some of them need to work on their passing sometimes or keeping their stick down. But I mean, maybe the young guys just need to step it up a little bit. But I don't know. I feel pretty confident with this team. That's such a cake answer. I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
that cake that Tyler was supposed to bring that he didn't show up.
Yeah.
That reminds me. I'm leaving.
That's a fine answer because one, you talk to the players more than we do, so that's a safe answer, especially when you do that.
I'm gonna say that's not true. I've only been to Grand Rapids once this year.
Oh, that's fair. You're right, but also, I mean, it isn't the wrong answer necessarily. Nick, do you have an answer on this one?
I would say Coase. I want to see an improvement. Like. This is the bad take Nick part, I guess. I don't know. But like his stats didn't match the regular season. I mean, he finished with a 2.86. He had 0.880 save percentage. We have our own theory that we talked about in Toledo, but I'm hoping that next there were some few goals that he wanted back. And I think it's just trying to get that communication with Simon back on the same page, because Simon was in Detroit for the last like month or so. So just them getting reacclimated together. But I don't know how that could be actually a bad take. If that's somebody that I want to see that needs improvement, I mean, that's who it is. I want to see improvement.
Terrible take. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, like, again, you're right.
Okay. I don't care.
The stats don't match the regular season, sure, but at the same time, it's his first AHL playoff round ever.
Yeah.
I would say there's 2 goals in the entire series where I sit there and I go, oof, because like the whole team played like trash in game 2. Like the 5-1 loss. At some point, I feel like he gave up, and I'll agree with that. So there was a couple goals in there where I'm like, yeah, what are you doing? But at the same time, the whole team gave up in that game. It was terrible. But outside of that game specifically, I can think of 2 total goals where I'm like, oh, he was a little out of position, but it wasn't by much. It's the little tiny fundamentals that he'll continue to work on. And that's why we keep telling everyone that says, oh, call him up to Detroit now. No. He needs another full year for sure. For sure. But if it's just the tiny fundamentals where it's just a little bit out of position on something like that, where Lucas Reichel's on the other end of the puck there, firing it with this much space, like, yeah, sure. But I don't know. I liked what he did. I think he was very confident in himself and was able to recover quickly, even when things went south. Like, sure, game 3 wasn't pretty when they went to overtime, but at the same time, those 2 goals at the end there, I can't fault him for either of them. Like, I really can't, going back and look at them. The ones that tied the game, I can't fault them. Edvinsson blew his assignment on the third one. It was bad. But at the same time, it's playoff hockey, as he would say.
There is one thing that I've noticed since I've started covering this team since that shortened pandemic season is the score, the stats, it's like rarely ever indicative to how someone's playing or the team's playing. That's why sometimes this team like drives me nuts when people just, not this team, like fan base drives me nuts when they look at just the stats and they're like, oh, they were so bad. And I'm like, no, like they weren't. It just, sometimes they get like the bad unlucky bounces or, like things popping off the glass and going over the crossbar, like, all those things. But, you said something, Brandon, that then like made me think, it is important though for a goaltender to have those fundies in the playoffs though, because the people who are, as you get further in, the people that are playing, they're there and they're good because they've mastered their fundamentals. And if you don't have like strong fundies, they're going to just like destroy you. They're going to look at it and be like, oh, look at that. He doesn't close up the post all the way, or he comes too far out. Although Coast has been really good about closing up the post, but that's just an example. Yeah. So now I'm like, well, I might have to take back that MVP. Damn it, Nick.
I'm not saying that he played terribly either. And I know the stats won't always match up with the way they played. Like you could play a really good game and still lose. And so what I think I'm so used to the goalies just standing on their heads and like stealing a game or saving the game kind of thing. That's what they're supposed to do, save the game. So I just like, he's there. I just want to see more. That's how I took the question of like that improvement. I'm hoping that he can have improvement because I think the team played overall well. Like there wasn't much on the offensive side. Like there's not guys I'm like, I wish they would have scored, or they could have had some more assists, or defense, they could have played a little bit better. I mean, we didn't have that. We finished that series with only 2 guys. And I know we hate plus minus, but I mean, for a series, there really isn't many guys that finish with the minus.
Yeah.
7 guys. So, I mean, it's just, you got to be responsible on both ends of the ice. And I thought the team did really well there. I mean, the defense could probably clean up, but I don't have a specific player that's going to be like, they played like shit, you know? We called that out in the one game. So I
mean, that's true. I mean, at the end of the day, when I look at Coast, I sit there and I go, even though some of the numbers aren't that much better, we're going to go stats wise, but in goals against and save percentage, there's one goalie that would shock you to hear that they're in last place of all the goalies that have played in the playoffs so far, and that's Askarov. So at least we're not looking at that picture right now. I'll take that.
And he leads goalies in penalty minutes, which is fantastic.
Wait, how did I miss that? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Like Kochetkov, I never get his name right. Oh, he also led them in goals and penalty minutes that one year. So like, I love a good feisty, sassy, spicy goalie.
Maybe one that doesn't take a blatant interference penalty, but hey.
You know, touche, good point. You know what really impressed me, speaking of goalies, is like Kosa didn't just straight up punch that guy in the face. I can't remember. Was it Cini who went?
It was Cini that ran him. Yep.
Man, I probably would have just like pulled what was it, Miles Garrett, and just like yanked off my helmet and just beat him with it. Like I like good on you, Sebastian Kosa, for being like a level-headed, chill goaltender. Like that kid's gonna go places.
Yeah, especially because he does have a mean streak too. He has an aggressive streak in him. It's there. You're right. I'm shocked he didn't go after Cini, but Edvinsson took care of the trash at that point for him.
Yeah, that's a good point. And somehow, like, no penalties really came out of that. There were some, obviously, but I thought it would be more.
We always talk with Kosa too. It's like when he starts, he's a slow start to the season, right? He did this in Toledo. He did this in Grand Rapids this year. And maybe this is his second season where he's starting slow and he's going to build up as we go through. Like that's what I'm hoping for at this point. Because like his stats compared to the rest of the league are not. You got to go to the second page on save percentage.
But how many of them? I do wonder. I'd have to look at it. But how many of them are like he had one really bad game and then had a lot of really good games? Because I feel like when he had those shutouts and that win streak, that like he would have like one really bad game and then it was just like good, and then like a really bad game. And then based on stat wise, like how many goals were let in, because I know some of those games it wasn't necessarily all his fault. I wonder how much of that is like taking that into account.
That's why I was surprised after the 5-1 loss that he didn't bounce back and like shut the doors down, you know?
Yeah.
So, which was typical Costa fashion, which was what I was surprised that I didn't see.
I'm not surprised we didn't see him just shut the doors down on that. Rockford was too good. These teams were too close. That's the thing. These teams were too close in like compete level. It's crazy. I'm gonna throw out
Nick's face. I'm so sorry, Nick's face.
No, I just thought of something because in the regular season, Hutch had 2 shutouts against Rockford. I'd have to double check, but I believe he shut them out twice.
why isn't Hutch playing? He's obviously not hurt because he's on the bench.
Which is why I give that look, because why didn't we start with Hutch? I know the plan. I understand that, but why didn't we start with Hutch if he's already shut Rockford out twice? But I know they didn't have all of their players, like, because they were up with Chicago. So I understand that part. But it seemed like Hutch had the better season against Rockford. Don't quote me on that. I don't have the stats, but just going based off of memory on it. So I would have to look more into it. But I think that's something that we'll look for when we go against Milwaukee or Texas, whoever finishes that series.
I mean, I know Waddy said he was going with the hot hand. I mean, that's the immediate reason he gave. He said Coase was the starter for that series. He didn't say the whole playoffs. He just said that series. He's going with the hot hand. But at the same time, it could have other influences too. Who knows? We don't know. So mine, he only played 2 games. Matt Luff.
Yeah, I figured you were going to go there.
Oh, I figured, yeah.
Those first 2 games were bad. No, he wasn't quiet. They were bad. I understand why Waddy made the decision he did. I don't think this was a veteran rule decision by any means to sit him. I think things were said by people about his performance in that time. It just wasn't good. It wasn't what you'd expect him to bring to the table. Like, you know what he's capable of, and I think hopefully he does get another chance in the next round and can come out there and do the Matt Luff things, because we need him to do those things. That's a key player to come in and do those things. So I hope he figures it out.
I would agree with you, Luff. Like, I mean, when he's on, he's on. I mean, we saw the breakaway goal where he took the puck out of the air. Like, we've seen some crazy shots from him. So, like, he was scoreless in the series, and he only played those 2 games. But hopefully, like, it was just a game plan thing where Rockford was really good at shutting him down, and now he's going to be back up and running. And maybe he had a small injury. I don't know. Like, a couple things could give him that reset, that refresh, and maybe just watch the game from the press box like Didier did and see something different. So,
yeah. But outside of that, I don't think we have anyone else that I would. There's no honorable mentions with improvement. Like, again, the team played really well, but what was your biggest takeaway from this round with the way Waddy coached this team, Elaine?
Okay. So what I am loving about Waddy that you guys pointed out that Ben Simon lacked was his on the fly change. Stop. I mean, yes.
Playoff appearances? I don't know.
I love Ben Simon. Okay. Anyways, is that the on the fly in game decisions? He is real. I feel like the whole coaching staff is. I mean, Waddy's definitely the best at doing it, but that was, I don't know. I really liked seeing that, and he was able to calm them and keep them calm, and just he made good sound decisions that they bought into. And I think it was, you saw it throughout the season, but you really saw it here. And then because he made those decisions during the game, then he could continue to adjust more with more continuity into the next game. So he's a good coach.
He really is. And yeah, making those changes, like making that change to go to 11-7 in those last 2 games to really just have that like fluid movement in the lineup. That was huge.
Yeah. That was great. I was so hyped when I saw that.
Yeah, it was smart. Nick, what about you?
The 11-7. That was literally what I was going to say. I mean, it's with Ben Simon, you saw a lot of the blender, like throughout the period, throughout the game, from shift to shift. Like you didn't know who was out there or why they were out there with that person. And with Waddy, like he doesn't do that in the games. He goes game to game. He'll change up the lineup. He'll make the adjustments that are needed. And he addressed the concern. Like it was the defense. Like we needed that grittier guy. And Matt Luff wasn't putting up the points on the offensive side. So they swapped him and got him going. And that changed. I think that changed the series because Rockford didn't know how to match up with us. And it kind of gives Waddy that excuse to use the blender when he goes down 11-7. So like he can plug and play different guys into that winger spot. And we've seen weird combinations throughout with that in the beginning, like earlier in the season. But it's just like that with Waddy was huge. So it was good that he addressed it. I kind of foresaw that a little bit. I was like, we need our cap, and who are we going to take out to put it in there? But so it worked out really well.
Yeah, that's a good point that you kind of brought up about Rockford didn't know how to handle that, because they do play a lot of one-on-one hockey. They have man-to-man very often. So yeah, that was a great choice by his part.
Yeah. I mean, my thing with him is I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Elaine said, just being able to keep the team calm, being able to keep them focused, make them play with emotion, but not, emotional games. Like game 4, if that was the Ben Simon era, sorry, Elaine. I know you like Ben Simon. He's
I know
nice
what that would look like. Giovanni Smith would have taken or Joel Esperance, one of them would have taken a penalty after they tied the game up with 2 minutes left in the game. Then the game would have gone to overtime, and then the other team would have scored, and Jonathan Bergeron might have been John at the ref the whole time. Like, that's literally what would have happened.
Yeah, the fact that bench did not come unglued during that last game on some of those calls, like, that's just how he had them focused. They were all focused on the same objective, no matter what happened in front of them, no matter what was thrown at them. They were going for the same goal, and that's just something this team has needed for so long. So just seeing that, it felt good. He coached a fantastic series, coached a fantastic season. We'll talk about that in the end of the season recap, whenever that comes. Hopefully not for a while, but he coached a fantastic series. First AHL series win for him as a head coach. Like, that's awesome. I love it. But yeah, it was good for Waddy. Now, what concerns do we have going into round 2? I think this is going to kind of boil into like what our predictions are for it, and it's all going to come down to who we're playing. We still don't know, obviously, but I'll throw it to you first, Elaine. What concerns do you have for this team going into round 2 or 3 or whatever the hell the AHL calls this one?
Special teams, both sides, not just the power play, but the PK too. And both teams, both Texas and Milwaukee, they will smother you if you don't have solid special teams.
Nick?
I mean, we went 0 for 8 on the power play in 5 games. This has been a problem the entire season, except for like maybe 2 games that we did really well on the power play. And so we went away from what worked, which was playing down low behind the goal. That'd be a way. Hey, that'd be a fun way to play.
Right in with the fans.
Right with the fans. In between the benches. No, but like playing behind the goal like that. When we played Rockford in that like 3-game series earlier this year, like that was successful. We had 2 power plays. We had 2 power play goals. That worked with us, and it was able to keep possession. Those one-touch passes, like that works. So I don't know why we've abandoned what was successful on that aspect, but power play is going to be my biggest concern if we can't get this figured out. It stresses me out, to be honest.
I just want to know why on the power play. Like, we've watched it, like you said, playing down low. We've parked Joel Esperance in front of the goalie so many times, and the results have been amazing. And we have a 6'7" behemoth named Elmer Soderblom that we don't put in front of the goalie. Like, they both have silky hands that can make crazy moves up front when the puck lands in their feet. Why are they not playing there the whole time? Why is Elmer playing the bumper on a power play? That's not where he belongs. He needs to be screening that goalie. He needs to be making his life hell. Like, that's got to change. Something, I think we're all going to agree here, are all of our concerns for this round are special teams. We're all concerned about that. And luckily they have a week to practice, and hopefully that's just the main focus of the practice, but keeping everything else tight as well. But yeah, power play and penalty kill, it's got to be better, because Texas or Milwaukee will eat us alive.
Yeah. I will say one thing about the power play. I do think that there are often times they just get so close, and they just can't finish. And I'm like, oh, you were like right there. Like, you just missed. You like didn't rush the net hard enough, or like you didn't have that man to pass to, or the goaltender just decided to just be like, hey, I'm the best penalty killer for this team forever. Like they were all.
Yes.
I think that's what makes it hard is I think they need to have more people than just, you know, like those two guys just sitting on the crease. I think they do need to spread it around because like what happens in playoffs when they get, if something happens, I'm not saying that I don't want to, something happens to someone or like, or if they're just tired or having an off game, they need to have like a more well-rounded power play. And I think when it was working is they were so dependent on like two people to be in their spots or like one person to be in their spot when it needs to be like everyone. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm terrified too, like I said, but I think that's kind of what happened is they just couldn't, they had the right pieces and then they were like, whoops.
I think you bring up a good point too with like being so close. They just lack calmness on the power play. When the chaos starts, they just all scramble and then usually the other team just clears it in that time because either everyone has collapsed in on it or the guys there just they can't find the puck because they're just freaking out trying to figure out where the heck it's gone. So
yeah,
calmness and yeah,
it's like when I'm playing Mario and I accidentally like get the star that like lights you up and it makes you go real fast, but like I'm really bad at video games, so I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing? Like that's I'm going too fast. I'm gonna die. Like that's literally
sounds like
what
my life.
that's how I see it on the power play sometimes.
It's not a bad comparison. Both comparisons you guys gave weren't bad. Oh, yeah, that is a concern. Well, the last thing I wanted to touch on for this to wrap up this recap of the last series is just a prediction for the next one. What do you think it's going to happen? And obviously we don't know who they're going to play, but either of these teams are very similar in certain ways. And yeah, just what's the predictions? Elaine, I'll go to you first.
Okay, so if they play Milwaukee, I think it's going to be a tougher series. I feel like for years they've just struggled. Not struggled, but like it's always been a bit more of a battle. I feel like maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. But and I know that at that point, if Milwaukee gets past Texas, Carl Taylor is just going to be like, I want it all. I want it all because they should. They were really good the year that the pandemic shut everything down. They were so good and they had a chance that was their year, right? So he is hungry. He has been chasing that. And if they get to this point, it's going to be a really, really rough. I think it's going to be really rough for Grand Rapids. If they play Texas, you know, it's great because Dallas is still in it.
Thank God.
And they will hopefully take up some more players, but also I've seen that we've seen it. Grand Rapids can come out and beat Texas. Like they can do it. They stand to the call against Texas, not just this year, but even last year and years when they've been really bad. Like they've stood to the call and they've made it a good series. And they've been able to skate away with a win or two and get under Texas's skin in a way that doesn't create like mass chaos on the ice, you know? And I mean, for the Griffins, I would think that they want to see Texas. And I think they have a shot at winning that series. I don't think it's not going to be like a sweep, but like it would go probably all the games, or maybe one less. But with Milwaukee, chances of winning that one would, in my eyes, would be slim.
Okay. Nick, what about you?
I'm going to go completely against what Elaine said.
All right.
So we've played Milwaukee and Texas both 8 times this season. We haven't played Texas in a long time. The Milwaukee was the last game of the season. So I would rather play Texas right? I would rather play them. I think they're the easier one with Dallas still in the playoffs. They're not dropping their prospects. So that would be an easier matchup for us, which is what I would like. Milwaukee stresses me out, but we actually did better against Milwaukee in the season. We went 4-3-1. Texas, we were 3-4-1. And a lot of those games against Texas were in the beginning of the season, though. So we're a different team.
When they had their really good players.
Yeah, when Texas had their really good players, and we still hadn't really gelled as a team yet. Like, it really clicked right after that Dallas or that Texas series is when it really clicked for us. So we're gonna see a very different Texas team if they make it. So, but I think it's gonna be easier. I think the travel's gonna suck. So I'd rather not see that. But Milwaukee's played us tight all year, and even though we've beat them and we've for the series for this year, I would rather play Texas. I think Milwaukee's gonna be tough. It will go the full game 5. It'll be like very pins and needles, and I'll be biting my fingertips. Like that's what it'll be. That series stresses me out. Every time we played them this year, I was stressed out. Like I couldn't focus. I was nervous. I was freaking out. So, yeah, that's what I got.
So wait, did you agree?
Points.
Did you agree with me, or did you wait? Hold on.
You said Texas would beat us, right?
No.
Oh,
no, I said we'd have the better chance against Texas. Nick just really wanted to say that. Really wanted to be opposite of me so bad. He made up a scenario in his head.
Maybe. I was pulling stats while you were talking. I thought you said you'd rather have Milwaukee.
No way.
But I still think the Griffins would beat both teams, to be honest with you, like in the series. And if it comes down to it, I think we still are the better team. We're deeper, we're more aggressive, and we're more calm now with the playoffs have started. So if we play either of them, I think we still win. And I think it will go the full games.
Okay. Well, I'm going to actually do the opposite of Elaine and say I think I'd rather play Milwaukee. For a couple reasons. One, yes, Texas got the best of us during the regular season with some of their best players, but that was also some of the worst Griffins hockey we had seen all season. A lot of it was earlier in the season before the Christmas break where the magic turnaround happened. So yes, there is that aspect to it. And who knows? My biggest fear with Texas is Dallas gets knocked out by Colorado mid-series, and all of a sudden Logan Staycomb comes back and just pushes us right out the playoff door. Like that's a really, really real possibility. But the playoffs have also unlocked special edition Remy Poirier, who's just like one of the best goalies in the league suddenly. Yeah. As we're watching on the other end, Askarov is struggling. The team is struggling. I mean, they potentially could be swept by Texas tomorrow. And I don't know what to think about that. But there's also the part of me that wants to play Milwaukee to, one, knock out the division champ after we ended their winning streak during the season and beat them in the last game of the season to secure our second seed. That's just a lot of good milestones that I want to just keep that extra one on there. But I also do think we play Milwaukee a lot smarter than we play Texas. I think we let Texas's speed put us in a weird position. Milwaukee's fast, but they're not that fast. And one of their best players on the score sheet, LaRue, also gets them in trouble the most. Yeah. So I understand that they're a good team and they're hungry for it, but I think that's the team I'd rather play. I think, like you said, Nick, I think we could beat them both. I think the travel aspect, though, also helps Grand Rapids when they're playing Milwaukee. When that travel's a lot shorter, you could be home basically until the day before your next game against them if you're on the road.
Do you think they would take the ferry across?
It'd be awesome if they did.
I think
it'd be quite relaxing.
They did before.
I think
according
they do in the playoffs.
Yeah, according to when I was in Milwaukee, the 1 year when I was there for opening night, they were telling me about how they've done that where they've taken the ferry across. Like, I want to be on that ferry ride. Okay.
Right.
We have all the interviews about what it's like to be on a boat, like nothing to do with hockey. I want to interview people about being on the boat. And I want to hear at least one person quote, the Lonely Islands, I'm on a boat. Goals, dreams.
There is the other travel aspect with Texas, though, too, in the fact that our organization is very nice. In our NHL team does have a team plane, and in the past, when the Red Wings were not in the playoffs, the Griffins have been allowed to use said team plane. So maybe travel wouldn't be that bad. I think either way, I think Grand Rapids can come up with the win. It's going to be a challenge either way. They will not sweep either of these teams for sure. I don't think it'll go the full 5 games. I think you'll see another 4-game series, and I think that'll help us out a lot going into conference finals, based on what the other matchups could potentially be, because they're kind of wild so far. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and Waddy doesn't like to play Game 5. We found out for the last few years.
He doesn't. He likes to skip that one, at least in the first 2 rounds.
Love it. Can I give you guys a really quick fun fact?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Griffins started to really turn things around on New Year's Eve, when I got to come in for the first time this season to cover the team in the locker and like ask everyone questions in the locker room. So just saying, like, hopefully they'll have some weekend games here.
And if they do, guys, get into the locker room to ask questions. They like Elaine, apparently.
And you're required to bring an octopus.
I will. I'll do it. Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but like, I'll have my mom do it.
From the press deck all the way down.
That would, if I were, if this was my last, like,
hurrah.
This might be depending on some things, be my last hurrah. But if it is, I would do it. That would be a great way to go out. That would be the best way, right? Like my mom
would explode.
Like my mom is she's diehard Red Wings fan. Like her dream is to like throw an octopus on the ice, either in Grand Rapids or in Detroit. And I think that if her daughter did it from like
the press
box, she would like die on the spot and be like, life cannot get any better than this.
From the upper deck.
Now, folks, if you see one come flying from up there, you know exactly who did it, and you should all congratulate her, because that would be the most impressive thing I've seen this season.
Sorry you got hit.
Right. I won't do it. We have, if anyone from the Red Wing, the Griffins is listening, I won't do it unless I had permission.
There's gonna be an octopus checkpoint up in the press row now because of this episode. Great.
Pat her down.
Elaine will be the only one with a clear bag coming in.
Gosh.
Yeah.
See, we throw this out there. They're gonna check her, but Tyler's the one who actually has it, since he didn't bring us cake and didn't even join us tonight.
Plot twist: it's actually Larry Figursky from Between the Benches. How funny would that be, though? Right? Like, if just someone from the team just like, whoop, there you go,
fall out of his pocket.
What if they just gave away? Okay, I hope the Griffins are listening, because I really have a great idea. They should have, instead of rally towels, they should have like rally octopuses. Like not real ones, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of wasted food. But like they look kind of like stuffed animals almost, and there is a time when you can throw them on the ice. Just not.
No, we don't know how to abide by that rule here.
Only versus Cleveland.
All right. Well, I think we've covered all the points we wanted to for this. So that's the moment in the episode where we pass it to our guest. Elaine, tell the people what you're working on, where they can find you, and what's going on for the rest of the season for you.
Yeah. So I'm no longer at Full Press. We had a content freeze for a little bit, and during that time, I decided to leave. And go just to my own site and create a sports section of my site. So my site is gracedbyrain.com. I have a podcast there, not about sports. I have a podcast about like the beauty in life, which I'm actually recording an episode after we get off of here. And yeah, that's where all my sports writing is going, up there. Creative writing. I am working on some things to see if I can like turn it more into like an LLC or a business. We're kind of working through that to see what happens. I have really no clue what's happening next. I want to thank the Griffins for keeping things status quo for the rest of the season while I'm taking this journey. it's meant a lot to me because hockey and covering the sport has been a huge part of my life for like over a decade. So not having it, that's why I was a little espresso depresso for a little bit there. So huge shout out to them. And well, yeah, we're just going to kind of see where life takes me. And you can find me on Twitter at I'm a Rain Dancer, and the website's /podcast Twitter is at Graced by Rain Pod. So check it out.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you're doing stuff even on your own. I still love it. So
yeah, I haven't done much recently because I had that funeral, and then we came home to work, and work was like pew, 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 pew. So everything got busy. But I'm trying to do a series recap about the Griffins. I think I have like 2 things I'm working on, but I'm not trying to push it because I don't want to just put up crap at my own website, even though I'm now not making like any money. But everything is my name now, and everything that comes out is me. And so I want to be consistent and put my best foot forward for everyone, because I genuinely care about this silly little sport. I don't want to cover the NHL. I love the AHL. So, like that sounded so aggressive. Like, I don't want to cover the NHL, but I don't.
I wouldn't either as a Cleveland fan.
I just love the AHL and the stories and the fans, because the fans at the AHL level are just so knowledgeable about all hockey. Like they know what's going on in the NHL, they know what's going on in the ECHL, they know what's going on in the AHL. So it makes it more fun to cover and to be able to bring those stories to people. So my goal is to be back next season, but we'll see where life takes me this summer.
Yeah, I like it. Everyone make sure they go check out Elaine, and her cat, if you're watching on YouTube here, has decided to join us again, which is fantastic. I love it. Mine always is in the background too, so it makes total sense. But yes, make sure everyone goes and checks Elaine out here at all of her websites and shows and everything that she's got going on, and look forward to seeing what she has going on in the future. With that, I think that wraps this episode up. Well, thank you again, Elaine, for coming on the show to do this series wrap up. Hopefully we can get you on after the next one, and hopefully it's all positive vibes at that point too. And hopefully our other fools that we talked to join us and make this even more chaos than it already is.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a direct call out to Tyler.
It sounds like a diss track. You're ready.
Andrew, get ready, boys. I'm going to diss track you every time you don't come on when I'm on. So let's go.
But no, thank you again, Elaine. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you again to Elaine for hopping on. We were glad we could do that. We tried to get a big group together, but scheduling and other things got in the way of that. But we have some fun group episodes coming up, hopefully, through this postseason here, to get the whole gang of all the people that we reference all the time in these episodes or have had on the episodes before, all together in one chaotic episode that the editor talking right now will absolutely have a blast with, I'm sure. But yeah, it was good to get her on, right?
Oh, it's always a good time to have Elaine on. It's always brings a different element, and she's the female version of me, you guys say. So chaos and
so
inappropriate
accurate
jokes all the way through.
Makes the edits even more fun.
Yeah. But also, she brings a different perspective. She brings that opinion about Didier sitting up in the press box. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that, and handing down that knowledge to the other guys. So like that, and like how he was making blocks. Like, she brought up a lot of good points. So I always like being able to grab the guys and Elaine onto the show.
Yeah, she usually does have some good points that make us think, and we're like, oh yeah, because I mean, for the longest time, she's covered a different team than the Griffins, and the Griffins on top of that. So you just get the different perspectives of a fan in there. So it's good. But I say it's time to wrap up this episode, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those that picked up on it during the episode, if you listened to everyone religiously, and if you do, thank you. We appreciate you. You notice there wasn't a DraftKings ad break, and if you watch on YouTube, you notice there's some logos missing on here. Don't freak out. We didn't get booted from anything, or we didn't do anything wrong. There's some exciting changes coming up for everything that we're associated with. So stay tuned for that. But everything is fine. We're all good. But we are excited to see what the future will bring. But we just wanted to point that out before everyone thought we did something bad.
Yeah, we didn't get kicked off the network. So everything's good. And I'm excited to see what the changes we're going to have with the network that we're on and see if it's going the way we'd like to see. So it's good. I'm excited.
Exactly. But we still do have one sponsor. So make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST. Get $3 off your order. Pick up a sweet hoodie or t-shirt. And again, shout out to Elaine. Thank you again for coming on. Shout out to you, sir, for doing this on your day off today. I appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone else for listening. Thank you all. Have a wonderful week. We will talk to y'all on Friday with another Toledo Friday episode. And that is all we have this week. So everyone, go Griffins, go Fish, and we will talk to y'all on Friday.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at Brandon GR Hockey.